Good evening. Welcome to our Soul Chats session 2. We will be running these chats and these Facebook Lives over the next 6 weeks, and this is our second session out of 7. I will just be inviting in our lovely Katerina to join us tonight. It'll be both her and me throughout the 7 weeks, and just opening up conversations about life, about transformation, about changes, about self-discovery, about anything that's really allowed you to grow in your life. So it's quite important that we actually open up a forum. I've just got Katerina now, so I will bring her in and we can get started. Oh, why not? Katerina, it says that I cannot bring you onto the camera. What does that mean? It's going to make our little duo a little bit difficult. Do you want to try and pop out and then come back in? I'm not sure why that didn't work. But for all that is joining us, welcome. Get settled. Find a nice, quiet little place for you to just enjoy the next hour and share in the conversation as well. We find it's really quite therapeutic and beneficial when we all can be sharing just our personal experiences, what we've learnt about different instances in our life, and really just opening that platform up so we all have a chance to share. So I'm just going to try and bring Katerina on now. Might be a moment, folks. Just get comfortable. We will be starting very soon. Anyone watching the replay, always just fast forward the first few minutes to get started.
Hey.
Hey, we are on.
Right. We are on. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very, very well.
That's good. Very good. So tonight you also have to be in control of the comments because I cannot see the sharing on the laptop. So that will be your duties if you don't mind.
All right, cool. Leave it open. Done.
Perfect.
Done.
Shall we get started straight away?
Yeah, get into it.
Perfect. So we've divided up what we feel is, say, 7 topics or 7 subjects of what would be almost a transformation, a period of growth or even self-discovery when something in our life happens and it changes us, whether it's something really quite major that ends up feeling like a bit of a breakdown, and what's happened after that in terms of the process, what we've all gone through. We're just really breaking that down over 7 weeks to open up the conversation, have more chats, really open-hearted conversations about what we experience, our personal thoughts, feelings, and we're really wanting to provide the platform for everyone to be able to share their own experiences or to even gain their own awareness out of it as well. So last week was our first session. We talked about the turning point, what was the main instance or situation in our lives, and then everyone else that was watching as well got to share about when everything turned around, a moment that everything started to shift or you really made some changes in your life. So this week it's all about the delayering. So after we've had the, let's say, the breakdown or the turning point, we tend to find that there are lots of things that we change in our life, and there is a big letting go, surrendering, and delayering process that tends to happen next. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Again, we'll share both of our stories and our journeys to help you resonate, and then we open up the forum for anyone else to share, comment, whether you've got any awareness or aha moments that are coming up from our conversations, or it's just something that you would like to share yourself, so we can just get all points of view. So tonight is, pretty much that personal reflection. It's that the letting go. When you make changes in your life, or when something happens and you think, I have to turn my life around, whether it's your health, whether it's anything around your career, relationships, no matter what situation or area of life, you naturally want to start making changes, and then you naturally want to let go. What you laughing at?
Just like how just made me think of like moments that I felt that, and I was like, yes, yes, you're onto it.
It's the process, isn't it? I guess. And by you and me sharing our stories and just our little personal, not little, major personal growth, we've been able to really see how we've gone through very similar themes, or very similar waves of what we've experienced in our own personal situation, and that's what we want to share tonight. So, do you want to get started again? What was your, I guess, so we just jump straight into the actual delayering of what we started letting go?
Yeah, I guess so. So I guess for those who didn't watch last week, the main turning point for me was to do with my relationship and ending my relationship. So I guess like today I was like trying to think of it and sort of go back and try and remember the process that I went through kind of in a step-by-step way, and it was a little bit difficult. But I do remember that once I was out of the relationship, the first thing that I had to do was allow myself to feel all those things that needed to come up and be released. And part of that also meant that I needed to allow myself to feel the anger that I had towards my ex, which obviously nobody wants to admit, but when you're in a situation and you feel as though the other person is the cause of your pain, you have to not necessarily indulge in that feeling, but you have to respect the fact that you feel that way. And therefore, you have to allow it to surface so that you can work through it. So the first thing was kind of like allowing myself to be, which included being angry, being upset at myself, at her, at the situation, and everything. And then the next thing was also about, given that particular situation, it was also about specifically letting go of the ideas that I had about us. Because obviously when you're in a relationship for a significant period of time, or sometimes not even, but I'm the kind of person that I get into a relationship because I think this is serious. We're going to build a future together. We're going to live together and build a life together and then die together, So the next part for me was a lot about letting go of those ideas that I thought were going to come about, which was obviously really hard. But I felt like unless I allowed myself to do those three things and let them go, I wasn't able to actually properly check in and be like, okay, what's going on? How did we get here? Because I remember for a good few months afterwards, I still thought we'd potentially get back together. And the main thing for that as well was a lot to do with I was still holding on to all those ideas about how we were supposed to live our life together. And it wasn't even with so many signs, and I knew deep down that we weren't meant to be together. Despite that, those ideas in my head about what was supposed to be kind of controlled everything, and that's what you hold on to, right? So until I let go of that, I couldn't really, like I said, start to properly figure out, okay, how did I get to this place? Because I can be angry at her, I can be angry at the situation, I can be angry at everybody, but at the end of the day, I played a role too. And that was the first step after those three steps, is kind of like, okay, what role did I play here? How did I contribute to this situation? So for myself, it was a lot about I didn't set boundaries, I didn't speak my truth. I compromised constantly all the things that I wanted to do or who I wanted to be for her and what I thought she wanted me to be and and what I thought she wanted me to do and all that. So it was about taking responsibility for how I got there. Does that make sense?
For sure.
And part of that, like I said, was realizing, which is obviously a scary thing, because then by taking that responsibility, you then realize that you got yourself to that situation and it's no longer their fault, it's your fault. But at the same time, I think when you get to that point, it's really important to think that it's actually nobody's fault. It's not about blame. It's just about realizing the role each of us played, but yourself more importantly, so that you can take responsibility for it and make sure that it doesn't happen again. considering what it did. If it worked out great, then you don't really need to do that. But if it's not the outcome that you want, you need to go through that process to reflect, take ownership and responsibility. So about, okay, how do I make sure this doesn't happen to me again? Yeah, so the main thing, like I said, I think was to do with not setting boundaries. That was the biggest thing. And then you can sort of realize specific moments that happens. But I think it's about realizing those kind of bigger, chunky things. It's kind of like not setting boundaries, not speaking my truth, those sorts of things that without identifying them, I don't think you can properly kind of work through it in a way that the same thing doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
What was the hardest part that you had to let go of? And was it mental, emotional, physical? What was the hardest part that you felt like you were still holding on to something?
In terms of holding on to the relationship?
Yeah, just that whole process of coming out of that relationship and then going through that natural process of just letting go, delayering, and just changing everything. What was one part that you really got stuck on being able to let go of? And it could have just been a thought or an idea, like you've said. Was there one thing that really stands out for you?
Well, I think the thing that took the longest, like literally I've only able to genuinely get to a really good place about it in the last couple of months, is holding on to anger towards her.
Okay.
And that automatic victim mentality is that you did this to me.
Mm.
You were the one that took the life energy out of me. You were the one that demanded from me. You were the one that had these unrealistic expectations. You were the one who didn't accept me for how I am. And that was the hardest and probably the most toxic, because, like I said, when you focus on somebody else's behavior, one, you're reiterating that you're the victim, which is very disempowering. But two, you're not taking responsibility. Without that responsibility, you're kind of stuck. And also, while you're sitting there blaming, there's no room for appreciation. There's no room for gratitude, compassion, love. Like I still do love her. I'm not necessarily in love with her, but, we spend a significant amount of our time together. And I thought, we were going to have a happy ever after together. So there is still so much love for her. But I couldn't really connect to that properly until I properly let go of that. This is your fault. You fucked this up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which, to be honest, is not an easy thing to admit. Like, I think so many people go through that, and they to their friends and to themselves, they blame the other person. But a lot of people don't admit that they do that. So even just saying that just then made me feel a little bit like, but it's the truth. Like, it's what I went through, and I wish I didn't. I wish that I could just break up and then be like, I still have so much love for you. Everything is great. But it doesn't work that way, especially when it's something so significant. It wasn't like, so for example, it wasn't like absolutely nothing happened and we just grew apart. It was that I literally felt like I had nothing left inside of me, and I was so disconnected from myself. And it's such a overwhelming and dramatic experience to go through that it's almost, I don't want to say natural, but the automatic response is to then get defensive, is then to blame, is then to hold it against them and all that sort of stuff. So I think that was probably the hardest, because as difficult as it was to let go of the things in the future, like our life that I thought we'd have together, I think it was kind of easier because I knew we weren't meant to be together.
Yep.
Whereas with this stuff, I was kind of like going through the process of getting my energy back and finding that really difficult. And at the same time, having to forgive her. But because it was so challenging to do, I was like, I have to fucking go through this because of you. That's what the kind of stuff that comes up.
Yeah.
Because you don't take responsibility. So yeah, that by far the hardest thing, by far.
What point, or was there something that helped you shift that? Was there an awareness that one day you woke up and thought, oh my God, I'm blaming, I'm in this sort of victim mentality? What was the thing? Do you remember what really sort of shifted or let that go?
I don't think there was necessarily one particular moment. I think deep down I'm pretty self-aware, and I've always been into, like human behavior and spirituality and all that. So I think because of my awareness, I knew that it was the wrong thing to be doing. And so just slowly, slowly, whenever I would catch myself doing it, I'd kind of have to be like, hold up, let's change that a little bit. But also at the start of this year, I hired a coach that was really into spirituality and stuff like that. And there were some exercises that we did together through, I guess you'd kind of say hypnosis, but it wasn't really. And that helped a lot to allow myself to properly release that anger. Because I think, you know, vocalizing it is one thing, but to feel it, to allow it to allow yourself to embody it so that it can be released is different. So in the sense that, I could have, and I didn't do this, I could have gone to all my friends and completely bitched about her and be like, it's her fucking fault, blah, blah, blah. I never did that once, but people do that. And that's vocalizing it. But there's still a detachment between you and your feelings when you're doing that, because it's still all about the other person, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So through the exercises with him, there were other things that we worked through as well, but in terms of talking about this, that really helped a lot because it made me get comfortable with my own emotional truths about the situation that I was a little bit in denial about, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How about you?
Does anyone have any questions? So those who are watching, or even if you're watching the replay, I guess we want to open it up to see if this is resonating. Has anyone experienced something very similar? Are they going through this right now? I guess is anything that Kat has just shared that has actually sort of woken something up inside you or you relate to. We'd just love to hear from everyone else as well.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm checking. I got my laptop down there, so I'll check if anybody comments and I'll let you know.
Perfect. I like that you. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Go.
I like that you've pinpointed, well, a few things that I feel I really relate to in terms of things are a natural progression. I really, really believe that. There are a lot of things that can help. There are so many tools and techniques and people and coaches and everything like that can really help us process anything. But like you said, it can really feel like, and I really resonated with just that natural progression. Again, you catch yourself, you're aware of it, you hear your own thoughts, you feel the feelings. That awareness is what allows you to process anything, absolutely anything. You know what feels right and you know what doesn't feel right. And even if it's a process of catching yourself for months and months and months, and this is about anything, I just think that awareness is key, and we all have that awareness. When you've been shaken up or something has deeply changed in your life, you are wide awake. That is your awakening. That is your opening point, that you see things differently now. So your turning point, your breakdown, whatever it was for you, is your major life aha awakening. And you just have a whole different level of awareness. So I think that's important because we can also get very stuck in wanting to change things or shift things or know something doesn't feel quite right, and we go to great lengths to try and change it and fix it. But your beautiful point of just allowing those feelings to come up, because you had anger for her and that's okay. Your head could have said, you're not allowed to be angry at her, she didn't do anything for you. Your friends could have said it, your family could have said it. And then the suppression and the anger and the feelings and the emotions just get stuck down and stuck down. No wonder we all have illnesses and diseases in our bodies when we have these emotions that are stuck. So the fact that you said you really had to allow yourself to be angry and be okay with that, to me, is such a huge part of any type of healing, transformation, just all of us processing what we naturally process throughout our whole lives. That is a huge part for our physical bodies, to allow those emotions to come up, to surface, because that's how they get released. The minute you feel that anger and you're like, oh, I can't feel that anger, I'm not allowed to feel that anger, I shouldn't, it's wrong, whatever, you're pushing it back down, and then there goes your organs and your stomach and your muscles and everything else that's going on inside you besides the energy and your vibration. It's just, that's what keeps us stuck and blocked when we're not allowing ourselves to feel the way we feel. And it can be completely internal. you're allowed to share that with other people. If we have counselors or coaches that are helping us through that, that's beautiful as well. So I love that you share that as well. I feel like that's such an important part of any process, that we just really feel how we feel. It's okay, because the minute it's okay and we let ourselves, it goes. It actually releases. So that's
100%.
acknowledgement, you know, it changes everything
Yeah,
instantly.
yeah, so just two things. One, Lynn said hi, so hello. Hi, Lynn. I also saw before Rob was giving us plenty of love, so thanks for the love, Rob. But yeah, I think, excuse me, just from my own experience, and I've always been really, really observant of people. I think it's one of my gifts. I'm very good at observing rather than projecting. Thanks, Rob. Rob's like going nuts on the love hearts right now. Yeah, and I've realized that I think a lot of the time, and I've done this before too, is I think people are actually scared to feel those things for two reasons. One, because they feel they shouldn't. So like you said, society or our friends or our family says, oh, you should just get over it. Or it should be easy to deal with, or it should be whatever statement you want to insert here. And that we take on to be a truth. And we're like, oh shit, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But then this feeling is trying to come up. So then you're causing this internal conflict between who you think you should be, all these societal structures and whatever, and who you actually are, which is this person that's trying to express these emotions. So I think that's one thing. I think the second thing, and like I said, I've been in this situation before, is I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to feel it because they don't know how to process it. And thing that I feel is actually that I think you're right in the sense that self-awareness is a ridiculously huge part of it. And if you don't have a certain level of self-awareness, I also think that by allowing those emotions to surface can actually be quite destructive if you don't have the right support around you. However, if you do have a certain level of self-awareness, when you have those moments of those emotions coming up and coming through or whatever, I think you can kind of tap in and see when you're letting it go too far and overindulging in it. And that kind of allows you to deal with it a little bit more independently, so to speak. But having said that, like I said last time, I had a counselor basically the whole of last year. Not the whole of, yeah, I think from about April, probably like to pretty close to the end of the year. So I had somebody pretty much the whole year helping me through it, which was amazing. Like she literally is the reason I'm sitting here the way I am right now. But yeah, I think that people don't know how to deal with those emotions. But like you said before, it's actually not about dealing with them. It's just about releasing them. They're just an energy. But the thing is, we think we need to solve them. We think we need to do something with them. You don't. The only thing you need to do with it is allow yourself to feel it so you can fucking let it go. That's it. You don't need to sit there and be like, oh, on my 4th birthday, in this very hour, in this very second, this moment happened in this moment, and then that led to this, and then it led to that, and now I'm angry and I'm dealing with all this shit and whatever. Don't worry about that. Just let it come out. Just feel it. If, like, for example, when I was doing those exercises with my coach, at one point, we did the exercise once, and then I went away and did it other times with other people in different situations and stuff. And at one point, like, I was in my room, really allowing this shit to come out. Like, this is deep shit that I've been holding on since my childhood. Like, I was crying. I was fucking punching the pillow. I was yelling. And literally afterwards, it was like I just had to let it out. And immediately, I was fine. It wasn't like I sat there for weeks, months, whatever, overindulging in the feeling of being a victim. You just need to allow that to surface, to come out. But you need to properly embody it. As soon as you tell yourself, oh, I'm feeling too angry, or oh, I'm too upset, or I'm too this, or I'm too that, you're putting a lid back on it. You're suppressing it, which means it's not going to go. Rob's loving life right now. Thanks for the love, Rob. Yeah, and then that means you can't let it go. It's going to stay in there, and then again, you're going to have to go through it. But yeah, I think a big part of it is you need to have a certain level of self-awareness, or you need somebody who can support you through that. Otherwise, it can be quite overindulging and very, very destructive if you don't know how to deal with it, especially if it's the first time. Because you've spent your whole life suppressing these things, and by embodying it and allowing yourself to embody it can be quite overwhelming. But I was lucky enough that the first time I did it, my coach was literally on the phone to me. He was talking me through it. And if somebody had tried to do that to me even last year, I don't think I would have felt comfortable enough to do it. But it just got to a point where I was like, I know that I need to let this shit go. So I was like, it's body, are you fucking ready to go through this? Because we're about to do this right now, you know? And then, yeah. Lynn just said, so Rob went nuts. Thanks, Rob. And then Lynn just said, I'm interested in this discussion about allowing the emotions. This resonates with me. Okay, good.
Perfect.
Well, yeah, like what's your experience, Lynn? Or do you have questions about it? Or thoughts? Or do you want me to elaborate or something? Loving Kat's info about how she dealt with the emotion and processed the emotion. Thanks, Lynn. I appreciate that.
Do you think that we feel we're about to relive a scenario, that why we've suppressed those emotions in the first place is because they do remind us of a time in the past that brought us uncomfortable feelings, and that's why we've suppressed them, because we didn't know how to deal with them, because we were usually a child when this stuff begins. So when the anger comes up or any emotions come up, it's like we have to relive that whole situation again. It's like our mind, or there's a part of us that freaks out and thinks that we're going to have to go through that whole process again, and we didn't deal with it then, so we actually don't see a way out this time. So it's not something in us that we actually have ever been taught or shown, or like you said as well, been supported to allow emotions to come up. Because even when you cry as a baby, you get told to shush. Like, so when has emotion ever been allowed to come out? So
exactly right. And
know how to.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you make really two very good points there. Is one, we're not really given an opportunity to express it or encouraged to express it. But there's also usually a set or one traumatic event that happened in our childhood that, because we can't express our emotions, we didn't, and it's held on to us forever. And I'm a big believer that whatever you don't deal with is just going to keep coming up in your life as a reminder for you to let that shit go, for you to process it. If, say, for example, the easiest and best example is for people who believe the opposite or same sex are a certain type of thing. So, for example, girls who think guys are all useless or cheat or whatever, right? And then what happens? They keep bringing that person into their life because they didn't deal with what happened the first time.
Yep.
That lesson is going to keep coming up. And the thing is, sometimes it doesn't necessarily keep coming up in the way you think it's going to keep coming up, because it's about the feeling. It's not about necessarily the situation. But life is going to keep bringing up experiences for you to bring up that feeling so that you just fucking face it. And it's not there to scare you. It's actually there to empower you. It's there to let you let that shit fucking go.
That's
like,
how we
just
grow.
drop it, let it go. You know, don't hold on to it. Like, especially when my parents divorced, when I was, they separated, I think, when I was 13 or 14. And that was a really hard time, like really fucking hard time. So much stuff happened at the same time. And for years, I was so angry at my mum, like so angry. And I realized it was rippling into so many different areas of my life. And it was really starting to physically bring me down. I literally felt like I was holding something on the back of me all the time. And I just realized I can't fucking do this anymore. Like, how much longer do I need to carry this shit? Like, you know, and if you're willing to, we're getting a lot of love tonight. Thanks, guys. Unless you're willing to face that, which, based on what we said before about society, about not knowing how to, about misunderstanding emotions and not how to use them to our benefit, we don't, and we just keep pushing it. Like, as soon as we feel a little bit of that emotion we don't want to deal with, don't want you, bang, I'm gonna go play PlayStation, or I'm gonna go do something to distract me from this feeling because I don't want to feel it. But we're just too scared. Margaret's on too. Hi, Margaret. Thanks for the love, Rob and Lynn. So that's what I think. I think it's people have never allowed themselves to feel it. And, you know, some people are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and still living in that. That's 70 years, 40 years, even 20 years. Is 20 years too fucking long, if you ask me, of holding on to shit. And it's just weighing us down. It's weighing us down. And it's so, so, so detrimental to our health, to our relationships, to our life, to new opportunities, to ourselves. But we have to be willing to express those emotions and embody them, because I actually think not to express it, I think to embody it. Because I think if you express your anger, people might misunderstand that as in you can just go out and get angry at everybody. And that's definitely what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean embodying that emotion in a safe, secure, secluded environment so that you can release it, not take it out on people around you. Because when you don't do that, that's what you end up doing. You end up taking it out on people around you. And that's when it's detrimental to you and those around you, and it's not so good.
Yeah, and that's being more reactive. So processing emotions can be 100% internal. You can have the thoughts and feelings come up for you, and you actually don't have to react. Like, we are making a choice whether we're reacting to these emotions or not. That is a whole nother level as well. Like, your awareness is enough, and you all have the thoughts, you all have the feelings. That is enough awareness. Whenever that comes up because of someone said something or done something or whatever at all, we're all going to get triggered with our stuff. That process can be so natural and so internal and so quick that all it is, it's almost like a conversation inside yourself. So you can have that anger and you can even think, oh, where is this coming from? And you literally are asking yourself, where is this coming from? You picture something, you remember when you were a kid, this happened. That can be enough. That can be the cycle. That actually, it can be so simple that it unravels, and that's the delayering, and that can be all internal. You know, the anger to come out doesn't mean that how we release it is us being physical or actually angry. That is not releasing it. Releasing it is just an energetic thing where you are feeling the feeling, acknowledging the feeling, accepting that that's okay. You can be angry. That is okay. You know, allowing yourself to actually feel those emotions, it releases like that. That is the process. That is actually how we are designed to deal with and process emotions that come up, because we were all going to have something. Something's going to trigger us. We've had a lifelong journey of stuff that we've put on ourselves, and emotions and meanings that we've given to situations as we've grown up, because we've been children and not had the understanding of what it all meant. So there is a process of delayering that we all naturally go through when we get older. And the process of emotions is such a huge part of that, but it's completely natural. It can be 2 seconds and it can be completely internal. Nothing has to be outward.
Yeah, 100. I totally agree. But you made a really interesting point, and I don't even know if you realized you did, or maybe it's just how I took what you said. You said that we end up reacting to our emotions, right? But for me, a lot of the time, for a lot of people, the emotion itself is a reaction.
Yeah.
It's like a reaction then to the reaction, which is really interesting. Very interesting. And now I forgot the other thing that I was going to say. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I also think that there's two parts to it though, right? And it depends where you're at. Oh, thanks, Margaret. I hope you're doing well. I think there's the process of resolving old shit and letting that go. And then there's the process of, from this moment forward, how am I going to deal with my stuff? So the part that you said about the instant thing, that's the this going forward. And sometimes the this going forward, you still need to go through parts where you release it, because you think you might have gone through it, but you haven't, and then it comes back up. But I think this is more about the stuff that we hold on to from our past and letting that go. And that's a process that I don't necessarily think can just be, oh, let's think about it. Okay, this is it. Okay, gone. I think the stuff from the past is the stuff that we need to feel. But the stuff from this moment going forward, I can make the conscious decision to not let this emotion control me. I'm going to deal with it in the moment so I don't add it to everything else that I'm carrying. And that's where I think what you're talking about is exactly right. Is that's when the real power is, because you're not adding to all of that. You're immediately dealing with it. It means going forward, you're going to get better and better at it. And there probably will come a time where you literally feel completely free. You feel like, you know, I've let so much go. I can walk now. I can carry myself through life properly and not feel so bogged down and exhausted.
Definitely. Yeah. So it's, I guess, the delayering of any scenario or situation in your life, emotions and the letting go and the releasing has such a huge part in that, because you are taking off the layers. You're actually diving in deep and getting very, very connected, I guess, or even clear with who you are and how you feel. So any type of change that happens in your life, you're naturally going to be letting go of anything internal, but you're letting go of things around you in your life. You're letting go of people. You're letting go of different habits. You're letting go of foods. You're letting go of all these things that are an external world, but as well as all these internal emotions as well. Like they both play such a huge part.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the part where you need to be self-aware and you need to take responsibility.
Mm.
Because if you're not willing to take responsibility, you will not acknowledge that you even do those destructive habits.
Yeah, exactly. And the responsibility can be a bit of a hard thing as well, because we're kind of almost stuck as a child when we still have all these emotions that we're getting triggered by. So there's still a very strong part of us that is still acting like a child to a degree, and this is us evolving, this is us growing to have that responsibility. I think the self-awareness thing can be, again, a natural progression. It doesn't have to be like, what would you do to become self-aware? Like, how would someone say, I don't think I'm very self-aware, what do I do about it? You know, how do people actually become more self-aware, would you say?
Oh,
I can
it's a bit
share.
hard because I think I've always been pretty self-aware just naturally because I'm such an observer.
Mm.
But I think the easiest way for people is through mindfulness and meditation. For the simple reason that the more you do that, the more detached from yourself you come in a healthy way, in a very healthy way. And by that, it's kind of like you're constantly watching yourself. So it's like you're constantly another person and you're able to view your behavior, your thoughts, your feelings, and whatever. That's what self-awareness is that you're looking at yourself. You're a third person viewing how you work, which seems paradoxical, but it's it's a possibility. Everybody can do it. It's not a gift that I have or you have or monks have or anything. Some people don't even need to meditate and can do it.
Mm.
It's just about realizing when I do this, this is what happens, basically. But not from a sense of being in your head. Like I said, it literally feels like there's a voice or a person in the back of your head that's looking at everything. And it's kind of like, oh, what's going on here? But yeah, I think for a lot of people, it has to be through mindful practices and through meditation.
Mm. And
And
I would,
just to be clear, a lot of people think meditation is like this really deep spiritual experience where you need all these crystals and candles and you need certain music and you need to be in a lotus position and all this shit. No, 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 no. You do not need to do that. You can do that, and I'm not judging people who do that, but I think that deters people a lot of the time from meditation because they think it's this really deep, hippie spiritual thing, which it is a deep experience, but it doesn't have to be like that. Even just 5 minutes of meditation in the morning. Meditation is basically just slowing the mind down. Look at it that way. It's just learning how to slow the mind down. And when you learn how to do that and all that inner voice is not constantly going, you then free up the internal noise to listen to that self-awareness voice that's telling you what's actually going on. Because that self-awareness voice is a quiet voice. But the internal dialogue is a scream sometimes. It's loud. When you're anxious and you're fearful or you're angry, it's really loud. So you can't hear that self-awareness. So by slowing the mind down and quietening that down, you can start to tap into that.
beautiful. And I think even journaling, I found that as a way of, one, even processing the emotions, again, being a very um, internal way of doing things without having to react or feeling the need that you're going to react or, you know, ever say or do something with people around you. Journaling, you can let out all of those thoughts and emotions and you can just let the paper have it. And you get then very, very clear and very, very connected to what's your truth. So to me, I found that was quite healing on its own accord, allowed me to process so many thoughts, so many feelings, so many emotions. But it was such a delayering. It literally allowed me to have the self-awareness, because as you're writing, you tend to write out whatever you're problem is, or whatever your questions are, or whatever you're going through, when you're writing out everything that's on your mind and pouring it all out, you naturally then have relief. You naturally have that quiet mind as well. You naturally then also have almost like your answers. I found when I would write, my answers would form on the page for me. And at some points, I didn't even know what I was writing. These words are just coming out. So you get very deeply connected to a very, I don't know, just deep part of yourself that you do feel a little bit detached, or you do feel a bit that you just tapped into a whole new level, because you're not carrying all those other layers of emotions and all that rubbish and all those thoughts that are just constantly going around and around in circles. It's not really allowing you to process anything. But to me, journaling has been up my whole life. Actually, I've not really voiced anything ever to anyone. So journaling was my way to express myself. So to me, it's another beautiful tool that you can definitely use to process all of that and delayer.
Yeah. Do you think a part of that, because it's funny you should say that, because I'm a writer as well. I haven't really too much recently, but I used to journal a lot. Like I used to write a lot. And you're right, it definitely is a release. It's a therapy in itself. It's a bit of a reality check. It's everything. But do you think that maybe a part of that also is because when you write it down on a piece of paper, it's a very different experience. It's kind of like a very intimate experience with you and this pen and paper, and nobody else needs to see it, which allows you then to be really raw and vulnerable if you will allow yourself. Because then you can just burn the piece of paper, or you can do whatever you want with it. Do you think that's the part too?
100%. It's because what else do you trust? And I still never wrote my truth out on paper in case someone read it. I remember being a kid thinking, I still can't put this in my diary or my journal in case one day someone reads it and they get offended or this happens. Like, if you can't be open and honest with your journal, like you're hiding something or you're just not allowing yourself to express those emotions, that's a really good key to know how much, I guess, you hold on to or you fear, I guess, as well. So 100%, you can definitely tap into that really beautiful personal space. It is like an internal dialogue where you get to release it as well. And you are very safe, very secure, and there's no judgment because it's just you, pen and paper. And I think it's quite a nice release, because I personally find that I'm very good at telling people what they want to hear. So if I had a coach in front of me or a mentor, or when I went through kinesiology, I would still know what to say. I was not being truthful because I don't want them to think a certain way of me, way too concerned about what other people think my whole life. So journaling, I allowed my truth, what I actually felt or what I believed, to come out. Another person could not have coached that out of me. They could not have actually, for me personally, I would not have allowed them to get deeper or me actually be brutally honest with how I was feeling to ever get through quite a lot of emotion. So to me, journaling was it. It was the only way that I could be all of me, really.
Well, that's really interesting, because a couple of times when I first started journaling, I actually did that. I wrote in the journal what I thought I should be writing in the journal.
Crazy.
And it took me a little bit of time to realize, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? This is exactly why I need to be writing in a fucking journal, because I'm constantly feeling like I need to be someone that I'm not.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, did you ever do that?
Journal.
Or anybody watch? Do you guys journal? And if you do journal, how do you write? What's your style? Yeah, did you ever, while you were writing in your journal, kind of not lie, but I guess fabricate? Or because I think for myself at the time as well, is I don't think I was actually ready to accept what I was going to write on that piece of paper. Whereas what happened earlier this year with my coach is it was a non-negotiable. This shit is getting dealt with right now. Like, for example, we were supposed to go for 8 weeks, once a week, and every time I would be like, dude, I don't want to wait till next week. Let's just fucking do it. So I've still got a session left with him because I was just like, let's do this. Let's do this. Like, there's no messing around. We're going to do this. So for me, when I first started writing, I don't think necessarily I was ready to deal with some of those truths. Because I think, well, like, I don't know if anybody can resonate or whether this has happened to even you, Tammy, but when you write down on a piece of paper, it's almost like reality smacking you right in the face if you dare to reread it. And so I'd actually encourage you sometimes to not even bother rereading it. Just let it out. Because sometimes I would reread it. I was like, oh my fucking, like, what is this? I'm not ready to accept this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you ever have that? Did that ever happen for you?
Yeah, I've done a lot of cleanup, so I've done a lot of rereading of journals. And
Wow. How's that?
it's funny and weird and stupid all at the same time. It's scary. It's actually scary. And I guess that's why we don't like to be brutally honest, because it's actually scary to know what goes on in our heads, or what we allow to go around and around. So my biggest thing was I actually saw patterns, and I thought I was going through something quite new of wanting to be independent. That was just a really big theme for me for a while. I look back like 7 years prior, and a journal said exactly the same thing. I was like, what? I'm still going through like this same conversation. So it allowed me.
Still about the situation, or just a different situation, but the same lesson and
Same
experience?
lesson. I still wanted to be independent. Back then it was about jobs and living. It was about something different now. So it allowed me to see how things can go around and around, and you have those themes in your life, whether we all have those really big life lessons and how they come up in your life, and they go around and around in different situations until you actually properly deal or understand them. Like you said before, you're still going to keep having those lessons, or those people that come into your life if you've never dealt with this original situation that ever occurred. You know, we're going to attract the same kind of energy because we're stuck in those beliefs or those emotions. So to me, it was the same thing. Really interesting to see how that was a huge similarity. That I feel like that's a big theme, that I just want to look after myself. I just want to be independent. It's been like a yearning for me. So beautiful aha moment to think 7 years ago I was talking about the same shit. Like, what? I haven't worked this out. So why am I still going through this for? But you also get to see your growth. Like, that's the other side of the coin there. When you read back, and the other thing when I was a kid that I tapped into, which I thought was brilliant, was I used to just write down absolutely everything but what I wanted. So I was always very goal driven. It was just a natural, I just wanted what I wanted. Like, I was a bit driven by I'll get what I want kind of thing, almost attitude. But
Actually, I'm going to argue that's not necessarily a bad thing.
oh no, I've done a lot in my life because of that. And writing them down, it taught me from a very early age that I always got what I wanted, and not in a sport brat kind of way, but I would write it down, and it was like something magical would happen. And this is back then that I didn't even like understand or have any, I guess, context to that. I would write goals down, and I'd go back like 2 months, a year, and I could tick everything off. And it could be a job here, it could be doing this, or have traveled here. It could have been absolutely anything. It didn't really matter. Experiences, and just they were always very sort of goal orientated without ever actually setting goals, and they always happened. And I tapped into that at a very early age, and that was a drive. I was like, how cool is this shit? I can do anything I want. So I went nuts with that.
Which is, I think, a great thing. Like, I think it's funny because, like, I like that you mentioned about the bratty thing, because a lot of people think that if you want stuff, it makes you a brat.
Yeah.
But everybody constantly wants stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody. We constantly are in a state of wanting. But I think there's a difference between wanting it and being a brat in the process about it, and just wanting it and knowing that's what you deserve and going after it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
had a few elements in that, but it was all personal. Like, I wasn't bratty in the way that it didn't have anything to do with anybody else. It was my personal goals. It's what I wanted to achieve. It's how I wanted to feel proud of myself, who I wanted to be, and I was very good at it. I achieved everything that I've ever wanted to do. But then I got addicted to it. Like, then I went crazy, and I think that's what then caused stress, because I feel like I can do anything and everything, and then I try and do everything and everything, and then it gets a little bit chaotic when, now in a different process and a different time of my life, I'm in such a more of a appreciation mode, or allowing things to come my way, not making them happen, not controlling them, because I also then learned that, how do I know what I want, like, say, in the future? So a job that I wanted to get, my biggest I guess example is wanting to have this specific job And for 8 years, I spent from after high school working in these jobs and just doing the natural progression. I wanted to be an on-site property manager at a hotel, and I've done front desk jobs and everything else. Got there, hated it. And I was like, so is this life? Is this actually how I operate? I spent 8 years of my life going from job to job to job to get to this level that I wanted to get at. Got there, it was stressful as all hell. And I was like, why did I ever think I wanted to do that? So my biggest delayering from that little process was I only know what I want right now. And to me, that's what I'm already attracting. So why am I ever setting goals? Why am I trying to achieve something when things can change along the way? When if you are that, not closed-minded, but say one-eyed, I kind of think of it as, at that goal. I'm going to be an on-site property manager was my thing. And I lost even sight of even the enjoyment of what I was getting out of my jobs to even get to that point to see clearly. So that to me was a whole nother delayering process of then having to step back and be very much in tune with how I feel in each moment, because essentially that's what I'm attracting. Why would I set a goal to receive something that I think I want because I think it's going to give me some type of feeling or some type of achievement when I get there, and who's to say it's ever going to be that? And if it is, what are you just going to constantly set goals, achieve them, set goals, achieve them, set goals, achieve them? I just feel like that's almost a bit of a rat race. Why can't, and that's what my big delayering part is, wasn't actually what I was going to say, but I guess it comes back to it now. Is that is that to me, just accepting who I am as I am and the life that I have around me is surely less stressful than setting goals and achieving them and setting goals and achieving them. To me, there's a lot of fear behind that sometimes as well. There's a lot of control. There's a lot of mindset to get you to those points. And that was my way of looking at one way of really being very driven and goal orientated and always achieving what I wanted and feeling quite proud of myself. But to get to a point where I thought, okay, this is actually turning to a stress. I've taken it too far. It's not enjoyable. And the goals aren't enjoyable when I reach them anymore anyway. So what's the point? So now the other side of the coin of my life has actually just been about enjoying the moment, feeling my feelings, being connected to that, understanding my intuition is guiding me every moment of the way, because that to me is more solid than saying I want this particular job by the end of the year, or I want to earn this amount. Why do I want anything anyway? What do you think you're going to get out of having a want list or a goal list, you know? So that has sent me on a whole tangent for the last few years. And why
sorry, go.
And why I guess I'm so about intuition and energy and in the moment and telling people just to feel their feelings. I'll tell them that no matter what your question is, ask yourself, how do you feel right now? That's your answer every single time.
But do you think it's possible though? So from what you just said, the issue wasn't actually setting the goal. The issue was that, one, you didn't appreciate the journey along the way because you were so fixed on the outcome.
Yeah.
So that's separate to having a goal. That's two separate things. And the other issue is that you thought you would be happier, which ultimately this is why we want anything in life for most people. It's because we want something because we think we're going to be happy when we get it. We think we're going to be more successful, which is going to make us happier. We think we're going to be more worthy, which is going to make us happier. That's why we ever want anything for most 99% of the time. So do you think it's possible, though, that we can still set goals, but detach from all of that? Because I also believe that, actually, I don't know what I believe. I'm just thinking, like, ever since you started saying that, my mind was just, like, pondering so much about stuff. I think goals still serve a purpose, but I think the point is to not be attached to them.
Yeah.
So that, one, along the way, you can enjoy the journey. And two, like you said, if the direction changes and your intuition is kind of like, you know what, I actually don't want this, even before you get it, you allow it to change.
Yeah, perfect.
Because,
and keep going.
No, go. I was just going to say, because I kind of think in life, if you sit there without a goal, because I think goals are kind of a bit misunderstood. To me, a goal is basically a desired outcome. That's basically what a goal is. So that also means that every morning when you get up and brush your teeth, brushing your teeth is basically a goal. having a shower is a goal. So I think there are goals that serve purposes. They give us direction and do make sure that we achieve things. I say that really freaking lightly. But I think we've just gone the wrong way about it. And a lot of people think goals are about, I need to be a millionaire by the time I'm 25, as opposed to my goal in life is to serve others. My goal in life is to contribute. My goal in life is to be the best person I can be. They're a very different kind of goal. They still have an outcome, but the outcome isn't something that you can really attain. Like when you get $1 million, you can take a photo of your bank account and be like, I've got $1 million. Whereas when you're like, I want to be the best person that I can be, and that's my goal. It's not a tangible thing. So you can never be, I don't necessarily think, you can't really be attached to the outcome. It's just about in any moment, that's my goal, and that's what I'm going to kind of work with. If I wake up in this moment and it's not feeling so good, I'm going to change my direction.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I think the biggest point, it doesn't matter what it is, but what you've said is just not having that attachment or that expectation to anything is what I guess can throw us off guard anyway, because we're setting ourselves up for something very specific when we haven't let the magic of the world around us to come into play, when we're so driven, and that is very a mindset type drive as well, to have any type of desire or outcome or achievement or anything. It sets us on a whole different sort of wavelength or vibration. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. You only know in yourself what feels right and what doesn't, If that kind of drive suits you and it feels good, that's fine. For me personally, it was too much, and I felt I needed to, not even needed to, I just naturally shifted into a different way of being, because now this feels so much more relaxed. But I don't need to want anything. I don't need to set any goals, because I naturally just do what I feel like doing. My intuition, my feelings, to me is my guide. So that is also a whole nother level of trust, to allow yourself to just to be in this moment and not think in the future and not forecast what you want, or achievements or anything like that. I have more energy and drive than I ever have, but I can't tell you I don't have goals for next week. Like, I'm doing things, I'm just doing them. I don't feel like they're a goal, but that's because I've put a meaning on it, because I've put quite a lot of stress into it before. So it totally depends on what your situation is, what you believe in, what your meanings are behind everything. But for me personally, I am just me now. I attract everything that I do need, whether it is any type of learning lessons or experiences. I don't see why I don't understand why I would need goals or have any desired outcomes for the future. To me, they're just thoughts and feelings that are just coming to me anyway. Anything that I sort of dream about or ponder about that's sort of a future thing, I feel like that just is my future. There's nothing I have to work towards, because me following my intuition is working towards that naturally. You know what I mean? I do totally understand, like, if you don't have goals, you don't have drive, and I've played with that a bit as well, because I actually have.
Wait. Hold on. I didn't say you don't have drive. I said you don't necessarily achieve. It just doesn't necessarily give you direction, and I think for you personally, knowing you, I think you are at a place that most people aren't at. As in your self-awareness, your emotional intelligence, your level of spirituality, your level of faith in yourself and what's meant to be. I'm not sure a lot of people have that. And therefore, so for example, a goal for me last year and even for this year was to release those emotions. A goal for me was to delay that stuff, right? And because of that, I'm now where I am. So I think ultimately where you're at now, I'm totally with you. Like, it's all about literally being in complete alignment with your higher self, with God, whatever you want to call it, with your intuition, which to me is your inner guidance system. Basically, it knows your final destination. It's going to tell you how to get there. And that's why I think you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that you don't necessarily need to make goals, because that inner voice is always going to tell you where to go. That's going to take you where you need to go, as opposed to where you want to go. But I think for a lot of people who say working that 9 to 5 rat race, who are caught up in the mainstream lifestyle, and that said with absolute no judgment whatsoever, I'm not sure that they have the mindset and the faith in something greater or even themselves to be able to get themselves out of that unless they have the goal to get themselves out of it, unless they have the goal to make a change.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely. And that also ties in with why we are talking about the delayering, really, because that is such a huge part of the process of saying, doing one thing that you've done so much that now you feel is either a stress or it just doesn't feel right in your life. And then it's that almost that process of delayering that no matter what it is. And goals can just be one of them. And it kind of was for me, almost not by accident, but that was something that had a really big impact for me personally. And what I felt I had to go far on the other direction or down the other extreme to feel a different way of feeling or being or just acting, just to try it out. So then you can find your balance, because that's what it's really all about anyway. You working out what actually suits you. If goals feel good for you, do it. It actually doesn't matter what you do. Nothing's right, nothing's wrong. Whatever feels right for you is right. So if goals work really well for you because of whatever reason, perfect, go for it. But this, exactly like we're saying, this was my journey, because I've now just felt the importance of discovering this new level of trust and being very connected to my intuition. And now this is serving a purpose to not only serve myself, but people around me. So this is now my business, and this is how I help others. So that was such a big purpose for me, to learn the whole different way. So to just be me and to be guided by my intuition and understand my own feelings and energy has a greater purpose. And I actually can definitely see that I had to go away from what I was doing, because this is a whole different way of being, mindset, everything. And this is what I'm attracting in my life now.
100%. And I think as well, because, thanks for the love, people. Lynn said, getting so much help and insight from listening to you both. I'm really glad, because that's exactly what this is about. I think also it's hard for people to get to a place like this where you don't necessarily need goals and you trust your intuition and everything. Because if you look at the way society is structured, the way everything runs, it's all about grinding, pushing hard, having a goal, making shit happen, doing this, it's entirely about the doing. Whereas when you connect to your intuition, it's got nothing to do with doing. It's entirely about doing. Like that literally just gave me goosebumps. But it's literally about being. And people don't know how to be. A lot of people don't know how to be. And I think that's a really important part of the delayering process, is you need to allow yourself to be. Which includes, if you don't understand what I mean, what it means to be, it means to allow yourself to feel, to think, to do, to express whatever it is that is happening in any given moment. So, for example, if you are feeling angry towards somebody that hurt you, fucking feel it. But don't overindulge in it. Don't get consumed by it. Feel it so that you can let it go. And we are not used to being. We're not used to that at all. Not an easy thing for a lot of people. And so I think that's why, like I said to you before, is that for you personally, knowing you and where you're at, I think that's why it's easy for you to be able to do that, because you're at a state where you're used to being. You can hear your intuition because everything in here is calmed down. But I think for a lot of people who are really stressed at work, who come home and they're stressed at home and they're worried about their family, they're worried about their parents, they're worried about their health, they're worried about money, they're worried about the car, that all they're thinking about is, I just want to fucking go on holiday and get away from here. And then even when they go on holiday, they're still not allowing themselves to be, because they're escaping their reality to be somewhere else and then get drunk and then shop and then do stuff that's not allowing themselves to be again. Like our society does not allow people to feel comfortable or encourage people to be. And like I said, when you are being, it lets go of the need for goals. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't have goals. Like, you still have business goals, but they're kind of light goals. Like, it's kind of like, if it happens, awesome. If it doesn't, I know that my intuition is guiding me where I need to know for something greater, for
Mm-hmm.
something more fulfilling, for something more of service to humanity and the people who cross my path.
Yep.
That's a different type of goal. It's just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like having a goal and setting a direction, but being totally flexible as
Mm.
to whether it comes about or not.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for a lot of people, they have that goal, and like you said, they get so fixated and narrow-minded on it. They're like, this has to happen. My life and everything depends on it, on this one thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's where it's messy.
Yeah.
That's game over. Tap
Yeah.
out. Save yourself.
Well, when you're causing yourself stress, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, like the delayering, the being is just a place that you get to. And I've only just come to that place in the last couple of weeks. But whatever you are yearning for or desiring to do, whether it's completely different to what you've ever done before, that's the path that I guess you follow. So that's the delayering. And you naturally just get to that place. So you know what you need to stop doing or release out of your life, or the people that you don't feel are quite healthy for you. The delayering process will be all areas of your life. It really will be changing foods you eat, where you shop, even if you shop, all the external factors that we can sometimes get wrapped up in because we're trying to fill all these voids and just sort of make ourselves feel better all the time, that the delayering is getting so raw and even so peeled back in all layers and all levels and areas of life, that's when you just end up finding that deep connection with yourself. And that's what the being is more about, the doing. But there's still a very long process to ever get to that point. So I definitely know what you're saying with the society not really allowing us to just be. There's no ads or marketing just to tell you to sit quietly on your own for an hour
Yeah.
and you'll be cool. So it's what we're learning now, and this is why we're all having these conversations, and why health and healing and wellness and your nutrition and meditation and everything is having these huge effects on people, because we've got to our peak of stress in our life. That's why we had our turning point or our breaking point. And the delayering is us now letting go of the things that don't serve us, that don't feel right, we don't feel healthy. And it can be everything from thoughts, feelings, these emotional releases, to the people and our jobs and the external factors. Like the delayering process can be huge and can go for years. So we could talk about it forever because there's so many like layers to it as well. But it's whatever feels right for you. Everyone has their own process. They'll find their own tools, their own support network, their own systems. Whatever feels right will help you delayer. That's pretty much the, I guess, the main message as well from both of us.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. Georgia made a comment. I'll reply to that in a second. Actually, no, because now I've lost my train of thought. Georgia said, I believe there needs to be a certain amount of balance between being and doing. And I do agree with that. But I think the doing that you end up doing from a state of being is a different type of doing.
Yeah, definitely.
As opposed, because for most people who are attached to the goals, it's all about the drive. It's all about, I need to do this and I need to force myself to do it, which exerts so much energy because you need the outcome. Whereas when you connect to the being, and with that inner guidance system, therefore having that sort of giving you a direction, that kind of doing is a flow kind of doing. I don't know if I said this in a video. I don't know if I said this last time, but the best analogy that I think for that to reflect the difference of those two doings is the doing for chasing a goal that you're attached to is kind of like going on a bicycle. You get out of your driveway, you go on a bicycle, and everything is going wrong. You get out onto the road, a car cuts you off, right? So bang, you've already got a challenge. Then all of a sudden the road is really bumpy. There's a lot of obstacles, so constantly having to concentrate. You're going uphill, so you have to exert a lot of energy. Then all of a sudden the wind comes, so you're against the wind as well, right? So you're focused on the outcome. You're focused on the destination that you're getting to, but you miss everything along the way. And even though there's all these things happening to tell you, hey, mate, maybe go back home, it doesn't need to be this challenging. But because we think we need challenging, we force ourselves to do it, and we exert and we push. By the time we get to the destination, we're so exhausted, you just fucking pass out. You just lay down. It's like, holy shit, right? You're sweating. You're so tired. You're over it, right? Whereas, how about this fucking scenario? You get out on your bike. There's no cars. You turn out onto the road. It's beautiful. It's not uphill. It's downhill. There's nothing in the middle of the road to block you. You don't need to turn. Nobody's cutting in front of you. Nothing is happening. And you actually notice, shit, there is a wind behind me this time. So it's actually pushing me forward. I don't even need to pedal. I no longer need to exert energy anymore. And because nothing is in front of me, I'm going downhill, not necessarily like steep hill, but, you know, a comfortable downhill with the wind behind me. And because I don't need to worry about what's in front of me anymore, I can start looking around. I can start enjoying the trees. I can start enjoying the journey of getting to the destination without overexerting myself. And I think that's the difference between being hardcore goal-driven in mainstream society, and they're always telling you to push, and that's why you need so much external motivation, because you're working against everything that's not natural for you. Whereas when you get into the being and then you start doing, it becomes a different type of doing. Like you're still riding the bike, but you're not riding the bike the way you would have ridden the bike.
Yeah, it's either easy or hard. Then you know the difference.
Yeah, Georgia wrote, great insights, ladies. Balance like riding a surfboard. You are doing, riding the board, but have to shift from doing to being as the wave changes. So as life changes, we'll need to shift between being and doing, and definitely being intuitive. Wait, hold on a second. I need to read that again. You are doing, you're riding the board, but have to shift from doing to being as the wave changes.
Well, being in flow. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. So it is, you're moving.
So life changes, we'll need to shift between being and doing. Yeah, but do you agree, Georgia, with what I meant about the doing? Like the difference in the doing being like overexerting energy as opposed to, because when you're riding a wave, for example, that wave is still behind you. You're not riding against the wave. It's still coming from behind you and working with you if you allow it to work with you. That makes sense. Totally agree about doing from a place of being. Yeah, cool.
And it's also, I guess, along the same lines of when people talk about inspired action. You know, there's no force behind it. It's just a natural, not even necessarily an urge, but it's just a natural, I feel like doing this, I'm doing this. So you're still acting, you know, you're not stopping yourself. It's just, and that's an inflow kind of being flow. You know, there's no force, there's no doing, it's not hard. Like the only thing you ever have to ask yourself, is this hard? Then, you know, you're forcing yourself. Is this easy? Well, you just keep doing it. Like really, it's either one or the other. We don't need to be struggling, or we don't need to be forcing things, like the bike analogy. I love your analogies. When you can see there is flow. And
I'm going to write analogies, and I'm going to give it to you. Yeah, I will.
I love them because exactly, it's, you know, when you're in flow and you know when you're pushing or trying or forcing something, and that's the simple indication for yourself whether things don't necessarily have to be as hard as they are, or we don't have to make them as hard as we're making them. And that is in any area of life, any situation.
Yeah, I agree. But again, I think it comes back to what I was saying before about that's easy for us to say given where we're at. But for people, so I mean it in the sense that, for example, where I was just before my ex and I broke up, I was listening to my intuition, which was telling me to get out of there, but there was still forced action that I had to take, because ultimately I knew that I knew logically and intuitively that this was going to come at a great cost. So for some people, I think at the start, when they start to take responsibility for their life, when they start to delayer, when they start to really consider what's going on in the results that they're getting and whether they're happy with it or not, which, like you said before, there is literally no right or wrong answer. It's for everybody in their own experience to decide whether it's working for them or not. But as you go through that process, it will be a little bit challenging. But the point of that challenge is almost like a challenge that you need to break free, so that then from that moment going forward, or not necessarily that moment you've made the decision, but once you've delayed all that and worked through it, from that moment going forward, everything can be so much easier for you. And you'll realize how much unnecessary energy you've been exerting for so long that you can't even go back. Like, you can't go back to it anymore. You can't go back there.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter where anyone.
Agree?
Yeah, agree. But I think it doesn't matter where anyone's at. Like, why we're having these conversations is we feel like we've been able to wrap up a journey or a bit of a self-discovery or a chapter in our lives that we want to start talking about transformation and splitting it up to start this conversation for everyone to have. So there is more awareness for everyone and they can express themselves. But every single person knows what feels right and what doesn't. That's all you ever need to know. That's the journey. Like, nothing else does it. What else matters? Like, whatever else comes of that, fine. And even if it doesn't feel right and you do it anyway, who cares? Like, we've all done that and we all do that and we still will. We're never going to be free from that. You're still making the choices of what you do and what you don't. And as far as I'm concerned, even if you're doing something that doesn't feel quite right, it would have had a purpose because you've done it. There'd be some other reason that you've actually created that or you've attracted that. And if it's hard or challenging or whatever, there will serve a purpose where you will be able to look back and see a benefit in that, either a year's time or even a week, whatever. There's always going to be that benefit or that support with anything. So it's us finding a different flow because we are learning more about ourselves naturally, globally. Our whole awareness and consciousness is shifting and changing. So this is why all these conversations are happening and we're all diving in a little deeper these days, because we are wanting to live a life. We're not living, we're not actually being, the whole human being conversation. This is what is the process. We're all in transformation right now. And it doesn't matter what you do to go through it, you're just naturally in it. So whatever you learn from that is a bonus. Everything that you take from it is a bonus. It's all experiences. They're all conversations. They're all there to serve a purpose for you, whether it is challenging or not. It's only up to you what you choose to do with it and which angle you go. Keep going the hard way or go the easy way. Really, to me, everyone has that choice in every moment.
Yeah, that's true. I guess just coming back to what we were talking about last week is that for some people, though, it takes getting to that turning point, which again in itself is people thinking, or people, I guess, maybe not even being open to the fact that they don't have to wait that long. Ease and path of least resistance can come to you much faster than that ever needing to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody can relate. Like, if anybody watching has gone through like a delayering, and by that, like, we basically just mean consciously making the effort to work through your stuff and accept what's going on. If anybody's done that or feels like that's where they're coming to, or just has any thoughts on delayering for themselves, do you agree with everything that we've said? Do you disagree? Like, what are your thoughts? Because these are our experiences. But I think, kind of like I said before, there's no right or wrong answer. And it literally comes down to what feels right for you. That should be always your number one priority. What feels right for me. And by that, I don't necessarily mean what provokes emotions that feel good, because I think there's a difference that you made me realize to be mindful of, the difference between feeling and emotions, right? For example, you could take a drug and you feel good, right, for that time. But if you were to connect to your intuition and your higher self before you decided to make that decision, you might decide not to do that because you know that the deep feeling is not going to be good. So it's about just realizing, am I going to feel good? Do I feel good? And if you do, then great, doing what you're doing. And if you don't, that's great too. That means then you have an opportunity to get where you want to go then, to make changes. I feel.
Perfect. Love it. We should wrap up because we've been talking forever. But yeah, we do want to hear from everyone, just your thoughts, feelings, your own experiences. We want it to be an open forum so we all get to express ourselves. We're just starting the conversation so we can all have our own points of views and see what we all resonate with, what your own experiences are, because everyone gets a chance to resonate with everybody's individual situations and occurrences and what they've learnt. because
Yeah.
we're all going to take something different out of all of our learnings in our life. So I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to share what we feel and what we've experienced, and to even see how similar lessons and learnings have actually been for all of our lives, whereas our situations can be completely different, but yet we all seem to be on a bit of a path, or there's a bit of an energy that we are all completely connected with, which is, I find, quite beautiful.
Yeah, and you're only going to realize if you're open enough to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, for example, literally, you and I are perfect evidence of that, because most people obviously don't know how we know each other. And if you're happy for me to share that, I'm happy to share that.
Sure.
Yeah, so we met probably about 4 years ago.
Yeah, was it?
I'd say.
I think so.
Wait, so I was with my ex for 3 years. That's already a year ago, so that would be 4 years. And we met you. You met us when we were together, so it'd have to be 3.5 years maybe.
It was June.
When I'd done mine, it was June.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
4 years. Anyway, keep going.
It must have been just after we got together then. Wow, so it would be like literally like 4 years. Anyways, we met at a personal development workshop in Melbourne that you came down from Brisbane, I think, or Queensland. And I think we just sat next to each other and then just started talking, exchanged numbers. I said that I was going to email you through some stuff. And then that was kind of it. And then literally like what, maybe, I don't know, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, just all of a sudden we kind of just like, hey, you're doing stuff that I'm doing. And then kind of this mutual exchange of kind of like, hey, we're kind of on a similar path. Let's kind of touch base here. And then basically since then, we've spoken almost every day and just shared our journey and our experiences and our lessons, and then realized even though the way they've come about may be different, it's still fundamentally the same thing. It's all about having an experience, learning from it, and growing, ultimately, is what it's about, which we're all doing. So, you know, by being open about it, you're allowing yourself then the opportunity to see how many other people are actually doing that shit too, because before you decide to make that decision, you feel so alone, you feel so secluded and isolated. But as soon as you step out of it, people start coming to you, people start relating to you, people start expressing their truths and vulnerabilities. And then you're like, holy shit, I am not alone. Everybody goes through this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, don't be scared to share your truth. And not necessarily on a platform like this if you don't feel comfortable. Even with your friends, even in your families, like, it doesn't matter. But just speak your truth if that's where you're at. Allow yourself to be.
Mm.
And then, like, you just see some magical shit happen for you.
You do. It's healing. Like, literally sharing your own thoughts and feelings is so therapeutic and so healing. And you can't even imagine, like, the beautiful response that you can get on the other end, because that's where all the support really comes from. And that's when you really don't feel alone. You feel connected. And then you tap into what feels like a whole global kind of connection, where there's this energy connection that we all have. And then your eyes start to open about how beautiful the human experience is. And then everything just gets fun and entertaining. Everything's an experience and everything's about the journey. And literally all you've done is start sharing your thoughts and feelings, and it's just opened up a whole new world for you. And I definitely concur. Like, our conversations have changed my whole world, and it's allowed me to get to where I feel very confident and very proud of myself to be who I am right now. And that's literally all shifted in the last few weeks by expressing, because I've been so internal and inward and don't talk to anyone or share anything with anyone. And this has been, I guess, the most healing, or I feel like the rapid growth has all happened in those last few weeks. And it's really come down to us sharing and being so open and not judgmental and just fascinated by each other's experiences and what we've learnt by it. It's absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, anyone that you feel comfortable sharing with anything, just feel free. Don't hold back, because you probably just, you'll allow them to open up more. That's actually what you do. You unlock that key for everyone else to express themselves. And that is a beautiful thing. We're here to be connected.
Yeah.
That's what we do as humans.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just have one thing for people to be mindful, is that when you first allow yourself to do that, sometimes, not all the time, the people around you who aren't ready to face their shit aren't going to allow you to express that. They're going to put you down. They're going to whatever, that potentially can happen.
True.
Please, 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 please don't let that deter you. Do not let that deter you. Fuck them. If they want to respond that way, let them. Do not worry. Because, for myself, I kind of, like, I've always worked on myself. And like I said, I was seeing a counselor last year and everything. But since the start of the year, I've taken it to a whole different level. Like, I've just gone all out and I've done it very internally. Like, I had the coach, but a lot of the work was myself. And surprisingly, along the way, people who I thought would be cheering me on for how far I've come did not cheer me on. And it really, really, really hurt me. And it hurt me so much to the point I almost stopped. So for about a week or two, I was like, holy shit, this isn't worth it. I'm losing people because of this. They're not supporting me.
Mm-hmm.
You go back into that victim mentality. But then luckily I pulled myself out of it and I was like, no, this is what I have to do. And I had to set that standard for myself that, okay, if they're not the right people to talk about, that's fine. I need to find people who I can share this with. I need to find my cheer squad and my support network that will help me through this part. So make sure that or not make sure, but be mindful that if you choose to do that, some people aren't ready to face it. And some people don't even know how to support you. And they're not necessarily trying to be rude. They just don't know how. And that's fine. Don't hate on them. But if people start to hate on you, do not let that deter you. Don't take that as oh, look, I'm trying to help myself and this is the negative outcome that I get. Don't do that to yourself. Just remind yourself, this is what I deserve. This is what I'm doing. And I'm going to find people that are going to help me through it.
Perfect.
That's my one tip.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I like that a lot. Because you'll just naturally attract then. And that is part of the delayering, because then you know the people that you actually want in your life. And they can be family and friends. And that's another level where you have to think, okay, are these people even right for me? And that's a whole other part of the process. But yeah, exactly. You will then naturally just attract the people are there to support you when you're ready to open up as well. They will just come out of the woodwork like you and me just connected randomly again. So they're there.
Yeah.
When you're ready, they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. Just own it. Just do it. You can do it.
You got this.
You can do it.
But anyone watching the replay, again, just share with us anything that pops up for you. Comment, ask a question, or share your experiences. We'd love to hear from you. We will write back whenever you're watching this. But we are on again next Sunday at 8 p.m. So every Sunday we'll be sharing a new topic. So join us.
Do we share the topic for next week, or do we just leave it as a surprise?
We'll leave it because we might change it.
Okay. That's right, because we're going with the flow. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, you guys are going to have to tune in next week then to find out what is going on. But yeah, please, if you do. Oh, people left comments. I don't know when you said these things. So hearing you about people not cheering you on that you thought you would. How do you attract people who will support you? That was from Lynn, and Maggie said, well said. Thanks, Maggie. Hold on, sorry. So hearing you, I'm guessing, say about people not cheering you on that you thought they would, how do you attract people who will support you? Well, I think from my perspective, and then you can provide your answer, Tammy, I think you naturally will attract people just by being that, just by allowing yourself to get to a point where you're willing to delayer that shit. Naturally, these people will come. And again, that sort of comes back to the controlling mindset that I need to find the people first before I can allow myself to heal. And it's going to be the other way around. You have to allow yourself to be open to healing first so that then the right people can come. So I can't remember if I said this last week or if this was just something that I mentioned to you while we were chatting, Tammy. But when I was going through everything last year with my ex, and it came to a point when we were still together, I'm looking down here because I can see Lynn's name, and I like to make eye contact like I can see her. There came a point a few months before we break up where I realized that, like, shit, I need to do something. And I consciously put out there into the universe, into whatever, I just said it out loud and I meant it, that I need help. I need help, right? And then literally within a few days, I was living with my ex and our friend at the time, who was staying in rural Victoria and would come back for a few days a week. And he had come home and he had put something in the bathroom that I hadn't realized he'd put in there. And we were just talking and he mentioned somebody's name. And as he mentioned her name, my entire body just went really freaking weird. Like I got goosebumps everywhere. And in that very same moment, as I opened the bathroom door, above the seat, he had put a new sign that said, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. So in that very moment, everything fell together. I didn't even know who this lady was, what she did or whatever. And I said, like, who is this woman? And so as soon as he said she's a counselor, I was like, that's my people. That's my answer. So don't necessarily worry about if you're consciously thinking right now that you don't have people who will support you. One, because you don't know really if they will or won't support you until you get to that point. Because like we said before, by you allowing yourself to be vulnerable and open to healing that, you naturally might be encouraging the people around you to do that as well. And they may support you and you just didn't realize. Or two, even if they don't support you, by you allowing yourself to feel that, you're putting it out into the universe and you're saying, I'm ready to do this. I'm taking it seriously. And just trust us when we say the people will just, like magic, appear. Like magic. But you have to stick to the idea and the intention that you are going to do this. That one must come first, not you find the people and then you deal with it. You have to make the decision that this is what I'm going to do. I don't know your thoughts on it, Tammy.
Yeah, perfect. I think I know when I'm ready for something new, and it's almost a way of, I got to the point where I just said to myself, or to the universe, or both, same, I'm ready for friends. I'm ready for friends now. Literally what I said. And then you turned up. And I wouldn't have put two and two together until I look at everything and internalize everything so I can see how that happens. And I realize that I am attracting everything that I want. So in that moment, Lynn, when you're ready and you just say to yourself, I'm now ready for someone to support me, whatever your words are, you know what you want, they come like that. And it's the best part about that is you only need one, and that person provides that ripple effect for you, because you then allow yourself to be more open. So then even if you are sharing whatever you wish to with, say, friends or family that you don't feel have actually supported you, you don't care, because you've got that one person already that you've been able to express yourself with, that it gives you another level of confidence. It just sends you into another level or area that you then don't really care if the ones that you feel should be supporting you don't care anymore. You'll express yourself or you won't, because you know you've already got that one person. So you know you're ready, but you just sharing that as well, Lynn, you've called them in. So they'll turn up on your door in the next couple of days. It's how it works. So let us know what happens. Because naturally when we think we're ready for something new or something different, we tend to say that or think that or feel that, and it does come our way anyway. The awareness to that actual occurrence tends to be the thing that we miss.
Yeah.
But they're coming.
Yeah, so,
and they're probably already there, Lynn. It's just something will pop up for you this week and you'll think, that's who I wanted. Or they become more open, or something will shift for you already now, Lynn, because we've had this discussion, that energetically you'll now be a magnet to that person that you need, or a few people.
Yeah, and even like just during discussion that you might have with friends, with family, with something, you might just get a little inkling inside of you that's like, hey, just say something. And that could be your intuition. Even though your mind is telling you there's no way this person's going to support me, you might be like, hey, just say something. Kind of like you're baiting the situation a little bit. You don't have to full on delve in and be like, oh, this is my life story. But, just sort of mention a little something and then see how it comes about. Sometimes that's when it happens too. But yeah, I think, like you said, just having that intention out there that's what's going to make it happen.
And like I think also, what
you're most welcome. I would love to hear how this goes for you.
Yeah, let us know, because you might even find yourself feeling like you need the support when you actually find it within yourself. Something might happen this week where you think you expected someone close to you to back you, when it was just you not giving it to yourself in the first place. That's when then the external world mirrors that. So just see what happens. Yeah. Because we're talking about this, we've already shifted something for you, Lynn. So be aware of that. If we ever feel we need outside support, it's because we feel we're lacking it internally ourselves anyway. Look at that first and then watch the actual people come as well to mirror that for you.
Yeah, that's so true. That's juicy. That's juicy. I like that. Thank you, Doc. Thank you,
All
Doc.
right, we better wrap it up. We've talked forever.
Yeah, which as we do.
We have no problem.
So thank you so much to everybody who left a comment and interacted, and everybody's love. If you are watching this in a playback and you've got any questions or comments or anything about your own process or your own thoughts and beliefs about this sort of stuff, please comment. Like I genuinely am interested in other people's stories and way of dealing with it, because like we said before, this was our way, but maybe somebody else has had another experience that we didn't even realize. So we're like, oh my God, that's, yes, but you know, so it's just a basically an educational platform, kind of, really, where we all share and just help each other grow and look at things differently. So if you do comment, like, we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can, but we promise we will write back for sure.
Definitely. And
otherwise, next Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. And join us next Sunday. But yeah, we do thank everyone for sharing and joining us and interacting. We do like the interaction because it just helps all of us, especially when you can express yourself and you feel comfortable to do so. That's a beautiful thing. So we appreciate everyone for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, guys. Enjoy your night, and we will see you next Sunday.
See you next Sunday. Have a good week.
Ciao, guys. Have a good week.
See you.
Bye.